Hello everyone, my name is Edson. I am a senior software engineer with about 10 years of experience working professionally. I've worked with companies of different size, and now I'm doing this video to share things that I wish I knew before I started as a software engineer. Like this, you can have some clarity in terms of what to expect if you plan or if you think that you would like to become a software engineer in the future. First, the first lesson that I learned as a software engineer the hard way was that anyone can get laid off. No matter what skill or how many level of experience that you have, it can happen to anyone. I can kind of give you my experience with layoff and you can have a better context. When I started working as a software engineer professionally, my first job was with American Express. And I really loved this job. But apparently I joined a company whose name was Serve, which was acquired by American Express. And that was one of the reasons why I jumped ship and then started working there. But unfortunately, once they purchased the company, which is called Serve, and then they hook all of their internal system, they laid off 80% of the staff. Me being a newcomer, uh, I was not protected against it. I also got myself laid off during that round of layoff. This happened like 10 years ago. So because of this, it kind of shaped my perspective in terms of how I handle my job. So when I started getting my degree and graduated, I honestly thought that I was set for life and that I would not have been in such situation and that having a degree would have made me special. But in reality, we don't really have control over that. And regardless of how much effort we put into our work, there might be a decision where they want to let go an entire department. And in my case, that's what happened. Uh, the entire department was let go, and there was nothing I could do about it. But I took things into my hands. After this layoff happened, I think I prioritized getting my master's degree so that I could strengthen my skills and can have a better understanding of how things work and actually be ready. So the first layoff kind of opened my eyes. The second thing that I learned the hard way was that school doesn't prepare you completely for the professional life. A lot of the academic things that I've learned, while they were very interesting and have a lot of understanding of what is actually happening at a computer level, when you work as a professional software engineer, you always have to learn everything from scratch. You have to understand the context of the department that you are part of. And these things are not things that you learn in book. Those things are things you learn when you work with other software engineers. While I could say that school make it easier to grasp new material, but school enough is not enough to push you further in your career. I wish I knew that my degree was not enough because I think when I got straight out of school, I was very confident in myself until I got that reality check that every time I switch job or every 2 or 3 years, I have to learn a lot of things that are not taught at the university. For example, they don't teach, when I was in school, Docker was not popular. Kubernetes engine was not popular. And then now these technology are out there in the market. And if you don't know this technology, you are missing out. So I had to do personal effort to learn this. Another thing that I wish I knew when I started working was my perception on how much code I would be writing versus the reality of how much code I'm writing. This may not be the same for everyone because as a working software engineer, there are so many fields. But I currently work as a DevOps engineer, which means I maintain infrastructure and I'm maintaining a lot of things related to system level engineering. honestly, it's not as much code as compared to other software. In my time, I think when I started working, initially I thought I'm going to be coding 24/7. Unfortunately, it's not like that. Even when I work as a pure software engineer, the amount of code that I write doesn't take that much of my time. Most of my time is spent into meeting to figure out what needs to be coding, uh, pair programming with other engineer that may need some help, estimating tasks that needs to be done, and then picking out what technology that needs to be solved, and actually spending time understanding what is needed to be built. And when it comes time to actually write the code, that's the least amount of time that is being spent. Most of the time is spent talking to other people, figure out what they want. And also a lot of time is spent in, at least for me, a lot of time is spent in helping out when there is an outage. And this can be a big time sink. For example, if a system falls during the day, I may have to drop what I'm doing and try to bring that system back up, or at least be here to write issue, why it happened, and at least understanding what was the root cause and make some adjustments so that the same thing doesn't happen continuously. I think when I started, I felt that I'm going to be coding 24/7, but apparently, no, it's not like that. And it seems like the more experience that you get, the less code you want to write. Not because you don't like to write code, but mostly because you understand the trade-off. Every piece of code that you write is a liability because someone has to maintain the code. So as I'm gaining more experience, I spend less time writing code. And when I have to write code, because I have the experience, it takes me less time to write the code. And by the time I'm over, most of my time is spent in other things like meeting. So I was really disappointed to a point where I actually decided to go to grad school just so that I can spend more time writing code. I think that was one of the reasons why I did my master's degree at the OSMCS. It's mostly because at work, the level of the code that we have to write are very simple. It doesn't require that level of complexity. And then the amount of code is very small. Whereas I think when I was doing graduate school, you actually have to write a lot of code. Again, this experience might be only for me. I cannot talk to other people experience, right? Sometimes I have to write a lot of code if it's the beginning of a project, but most of the time I don't have to crank that much code. So that's one thing I wish I knew before I started software engineering. Another thing I wish I knew when I started as a software engineer was the skill that you need to pass a software engineering interview is completely disconnected from the skill that you are going to use on your day-to-day work. This can be a little bit difficult to grasp, but most of the software engineering interview, you would be asked to code something live, but usually what you're being asked to code might not necessarily be something that you've used in your day-to-day life. For example, I never really have to build a tree and then do a binary search on that tree at work. But if you're looking to get work as a software engineer, you might be asked this question at an interview, right? I never personally at my day-to-day work have to build a binary tree. But at the interview, they would expect you to be able to write a binary tree and navigate to the binary tree and then be able to be very at ease to it. And those are not things that you do every day and you don't have any other escape but to go and learn it separate from your work, which might take some time. So there is this thing that you have to spend at least 6 months, 3 to 6 months just studying for interview. And if you don't consistently do this, then you would be, even though you're really good at your job, you might find it hard to land yourself next job. So I wish I knew how important it was to do lead code consistently before I started, regardless of having a computer science degree from a good school or having a graduate degree from a good school. No one really cared that much. In every interview that I walked through, they would ask you to solve some lead code style of problem. Even if the interview doesn't ask you to solve lead code style of problem, they would sometimes give you take-home assignment, which sometimes you have to see, is it worth my time? Those take-home assignments would need to be completed within a small amount of time, maybe like 2 weeks. But when you have a job, it's going to be an extra thing on top of your job to work, to write these assignments. And these I don't like either. Like doing like a 2 week work of assignment, like a sprint. It's like another full-time job on top of a full-time job. A concrete example would be this company that I interviewed for, and they wanted me to write a system similar to Docker, where you have a library and then you have HTTP, like an interface where you can send HTTP requests via gRCP, and then also you have to write a console app that can make those requests. It's not undoable, but it would take a good 40 hours for me to sit down and write it in Golang. So I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it. So I wish I knew that interviewing would have been easier. I wish that, I thought interviewing would have been easier, but apparently no. If you are good at your job and you want a new job, you have to learn how to go to this interview. They will ask you system design, which you might be familiar with, but maybe you don't design system every day. And there is no other way to learn this thing just by sitting down and really prepare for it. So even with experience as a software engineer, if you want to switch job, you need to put in at least 2, 3, 4 months of just preparing for a software engineering interview. So there is no shortcut about that. Those are a couple of things that I have put so far. A couple of things that I wish I knew before joining my software engineering journey. If you had some extra things, like you're an experienced engineer, and there are some stuff that you have learned throughout your software engineering journey and you would like to share it with us, please feel free to drop it in the comment. I would gladly like to see your comment and what you have learned that you wish you know. Like this, I can compare. That's it for today. I hope you gain some value from this video. If this is your first time watching my video, welcome to this channel. This channel is mostly for software engineer, where I put an emphasis on education and also an emphasis on upskilling. I hope you gain value from this one and see you next week. Bye.